Hi everyone, today we're going to be going over the Pythagorean Theorem. Now let's go ahead and first go over the formal definition. So if a triangle is a right triangle, so the Pythagorean Theorem only works for right triangles, then you will have a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, where c is the largest side, which is also known as the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse. Now, once you have a figure, such as like the triangle that I have here, which we're gonna call figure 1, which one is the hypotenuse? Well, it is actually easy to identify as the largest side, but just in case if you ever get lost, it is also known as the opposite side to the 90-degree angle. So because the 90-degree angle is the largest angle on the triangle, then the opposite side to it should be the largest side as well. So this is the hypotenuse. So this is going to be my C, and then A and B could be, this could be A and this could be B, or they could be vice versa. So you can also have this be B and this be A, and it doesn't change absolutely anything. You're still going to have A squared plus B squared is equal to the largest side, which is C squared. Now let's go over some quick examples. So now, before we get started with the examples, you have to know about what are the cases for these type of problems. So there are two type of cases. The first one is when one of the sides, or not one of the sides, but when the side that you're looking for is not the hypotenuse. So for example, number 1, we look at x, it's not the hypotenuse, it's one of the shorter sides. So that's going to be case 1. And then case 2 is when you have x be your hypotenuse. So whether it is the hypotenuse or not matters a lot. So let's go over the first one, which is when it's not the hypotenuse. So when it's not the hypotenuse, then A is going to be x, or it could be B. It doesn't matter. The point is that, so I'm going to call it A, but you can also let it be B, and it will not change the answer. So in this case, we have 14.1 be my hypotenuse because that's the one that's opposite to my 90-degree angle. And then I said I was going to make my AX, so it's going to be x squared. And then we're going to have 12.2 be 12.2 squared be my B. So we have this as our setup. I'm just going to put 11.1 and then the square on top. Now the square on top, or the little 2 on top that we have, like this one, it does not mean multiply by 2. It means multiply by itself twice. So for example, the first one, 12.2 squared, is 12.2 times 12.2. Or if you have a calculator, then you can just put 12.2 squared and it should give you the answer. But if you don't have one, then you can just multiply 12.2 times 12.2 and it should give you the same answer as well. So in this case, I'm doing it in my calculator. So I get 148.84. So my x squared remains the same, plus 148.84. And this is going to be equal to 14.1 squared. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on my calculator. 14.1 squared is 198.81. 198.81. Now from here, I have to go ahead and solve for my x squared, which is this. So I have to isolate it. So to isolate it, I have to get rid of my 148. So I'm going to do the opposite. So I have a positive, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it into a negative so that I subtract and I get 0. So minus 148.84 from both sides. That's going to go ahead and cancel these two. So all I have left is x squared is equal to 198.81. So let's go ahead and do that here. 198.81 49.81 minus 148.84 is about 49.87. 49.87. And then I'm actually not done. I still have to get rid of the 2 that I have here. So you have to use inverse operations. So inverse operations means an operation such that I can get rid of the square. So the opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. So we have to go ahead and take the square root from both sides. These two cancel out. So it's going to be x is equal to the square root of 49.87, which should be something close to 7. But let's go ahead and do it in our calculator. So let's see, let me find my square root. Okay, I found it. So square root of 49.87 gives you approximately 7.06. So 7.06. Now, as you can tell on the question, it says round to the nearest tenth. So because I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, I go ahead and look at my 0, circle that one, and then look at my number afterwards. So the number afterwards is 6. Because it's 5 or greater, I have to go ahead and move the 0 up. So I have to change it to 1. So my answer is 7.1. So hopefully this is making sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to the second example. So in the second example, we have our x as the hypotenuse because it is opposite to the 90-degree angle. So because it's opposite to the 90-degree angle, that tells me that when I write my equation, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, x is going to be which one of the three? Well, it's going to be c, right? Because that's the largest side. So no longer am I going to have it on the left like in example 1. In this case, it's going to be on the right. So it's going to be x squared. And now the other two, a and b, are going to be 10.5. Let me put the square in red, plus my other side, which is 12.4, and that also has to be squared. And then from here, we just go ahead and square them and then add them. So let's go ahead and leave some space because it's likely going to be a little bit longer. So x squared is going to be on the right hand side. Notice that my x squared in this case is on the right and not on the left. So I'm going to put 10.5 on the calculator, and I get, let's see, 10.5 squared gives me 110.25. 110.25 plus my 12.4 squared. Put that in the calculator and I get 153.76. Again, 153.76. Now, on the previous problem, I went ahead and did the opposite, right? So I did opposite. So I went ahead and subtracted from both sides 148. In this case, you don't have to do that because all of the numbers are already on one side. All you have to do is combine like terms. So in other words, you add the numbers. So it's going to be 153.76 plus 110.25, which gives me a total of 264.01. So 264.01 is equal to my x squared. Now remember, the square here on top means multiplying something twice. So to get rid of it, you have to go ahead and take the square root. So you take the square root, you take the square root, these two cancel out, and all you're left with is x. And on the left hand side, you have to go ahead and put that in the calculator. So it's going to be choose the square root of 264.01. That gives me 16.24. So 16.24. And then I round to the nearest tenth. So I look at my 2 and then look at the number afterwards. So that's a 4. Because it's less than 5, then that number is going to stay the same. So my rounded number is going to be 12.6. All right, now for the last problem. Identify it for yourself. Is it going to be, is x going to be my hypotenuse, or is it going to be one of the shorter sides? In other words, what I'm asking is x the largest side, or is it one of the smaller sides? In this case, it's going to be the larger side, right? Because it's opposite to the 90-degree angle. So my x is actually going to be my c. And then the other two are going to be a and b, in whichever order you wish to put them. It could also be that maybe you want this one to be b and this one to be a. Remember, the smaller sides, the order does not matter. But what does matter is which one is c. So my formula is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Now I know that my x is my c squared, my c, so it's going to be x squared. And then a is 10.9, so 10.9 squared, plus my b, which is 6.5. And remember, it has a square here. And we go ahead and put this in the calculator. So 10.9 squared gives me 118.81. So this is going to be 118.81 plus my 6.5 squared, which is 42.25. 42.25 is equal to x squared. Now, do I have to subtract anything from both sides? No, because the numbers are already on the left. They are already together. So all you have to do is combine like terms. So you add both of these numbers basically. So you add your 42.25 plus your 118.81, and that gives you 161.06. 161.06 is equal to my x squared. Am I done? No, right? You still have to go ahead and take the square root. So you take the square root from the left, you take the square root from the right. Because these two are inverse operations, they are going to go ahead and cancel out. So all you have left is the x. And on the left, now usually for your calculator, if you're using a normal calculator, most of them are going to require you to type second. So if you're not sure, you can always go ahead and download one from the internet if you don't have one at home. A calculator that I recommend is called Calculator X. You guys can go ahead and look at it. You can go ahead and look at it at the Android store and the Apple store. Anyways, the answer for this, when you take the square root, is 12.69. And your last step is to round. So that's going to go ahead and give me 12.7 is equal to my x. And that's it for today, guys. Hopefully this made sense. Go ahead and replay the video as many times as you need. But just remember that there are two cases. The first case is illustrated in example number 1, when x is one of the shorter sides. And the second case, when x is the hypotenuse, is shown in problems number 2 and 3. So for your work, it's actually going to be mixed. So make sure you're paying attention to which case you are working with. That's it for today. Bye, guys.